Welcome back to my channel. Yes, oh my god, hey, my name's Mickey Joe Theatre. I'm stagey and gay. I'm a critic on YouTube, I post lots of reviews, and today's is in verse. It's an homage to Seuss. So sit back while I talk about this festive show starring drag queen Miz Cracker as a who, not a hoe. And if you like today's video, content and vibe, then remember to comment, share, like, and subscribe. Okay, that's as much as I can do. I cannot sustain that for an entire video. Oh my god, hey! Welcome back to my stagey YouTube channel. Like I was mentioning before, today I'm going to be telling you all about Whose Holiday, the very festive and very camp show parodying Dr. Seuss's How the Grinch Stole Christmas, currently playing at Southwark Playhouse and starring RuPaul's Drag Race alumnus and RuPaul's Drag Race All-Stars alumnus Miz Cracker. One of my faves and yours. And if you did not enjoy the start of today's video, I would not recommend seeing this show because the entire thing is in verse the whole time. Mad props to Matthew Lombardo, who wrote this script, and to Miz Cracker for performing it because the whole thing rhymes exactly like I was just doing. And if you were enjoying that, then A, you should go and see this show, and B, I apologize for not sustaining it. But these videos are not scripted, I'm literally just talking to you off the cuff, so I cannot physically sustain that for the duration of this video. Do you know how many hours I would be here for if I was trying to rhyme an entire review? Now, like I mentioned before in my little introductory rhyme, if you enjoyed today's video, make sure to subscribe to my channel. I have plenty of reviews on here already and lots more coming out very soon. I've been to see so many festive shows recently of all sorts, and I'm very excited to tell you more about them very soon. Also, you can go and find me on social media, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. I'm at Mickey Joe Theatre on all of those platforms. Now, let's talk about Whose Holiday, not The Who's Holiday, as I keep calling it. It is not affiliated with The Who. Whose Holiday at Southwark Playhouse. So a little bit of background on this show that I actually researched after having seen it because I wasn't familiar with it beforehand. This has been performed previously off-Broadway, starring Matilda alumnus and Zorro Olivier Award winner and Emojiland alumnus Leslie Margarita. She played Cindy Lou Who. So to my knowledge, this has not historically been a drag show, and this is the first time that it is being performed by a drag queen. This is a one-person show. It's basically a monologue where Cindy Lou Who, the character from The Grinch, who has now grown up, she is basically speaking very casually to the audience in advance of a holiday party that she is hosting for her friends from her trailer, which gives you some indication of the direction that her life has taken. And my best guess is that the idea for this came heavily from Tuck Shop producer Chris Clegg, who loves to recontextualize shows using drag queens. And let me tell you, it doesn't take much to recontextualize this particular show using a drag queen. The whole vibe of the material, because it's campy and because it's fun and because it's sort of sexy but in a sort of playful way, it's very readily drag-friendly material, and Miz Cracker is a very good fit for it because she has this drag persona that is irreverent and funny and campy, equal parts mocking of an audience while being completely self-deprecating, which is a very important balance. But she's also one of a few queens that we have seen on RuPaul's Drag Race that very much work delivering Dr. Seuss-esque material because they have that kind of campy, cerebral vibe. You couldn't just put any Drag Race queen or any drag queen into this show. Miz Cracker is a very good fit for this, especially because the whole thing is rhymed dialogue. So this is taking place in the larger of the two spaces at Southwark Playhouse, which is now called Southwark Playhouse Borough because they're about to open their new venue next year. And it's being staged in a sort of a thrust arrangement with the trailer and that little space in front of it, and the audience sat around three sides of the stage. It's a very intimate, small little auditorium, which is perfect because it's a very informal and casual sort of a conversation between Miz Cracker and the audience. And like I'd mentioned before, the conceit is that she tells us about what happened to her after the events of How the Grinch Stole Christmas and how this affected her life and the things that she has experienced and how she has encountered some of the starker realities of the world away from the perfection of Whoville. And it takes you in just about every direction that you might expect based on that description. We have some very adult themes, but for the most part explored in a very playful and humorous way. That being said, if the Seuss of it all was confusing you, this is not a children-friendly show. But that is what Whose Holiday is about and how it has come to be at Southwark Playhouse this Christmas season. Let me tell you what I thought of this show. So I really enjoyed this. By this point in my December, I've seen a lot of festive shows, and you know, your most traditional version of that is pantomime, and a lot of big theatres put on Christmas musicals, and I've seen sort of festive alternatives like spooky wintry things, and I really just wanted something light and fun and campy, and that is exactly what this delivered. I am giving this a 4-star review. I had a really great time, and every expectation I had for what this show was going to be was completely satisfied. And you could feel a lot of enjoyment reverberating throughout the audience as well. Everyone was getting what they were hoping to get out of this experience of seeing Miz Cracker on stage, performing a show, performing a monologue. And the rhyming thing was a curveball for me. Like, I knew because it was Seuss that was going to happen, but I thought because it was like an adult risque version of Seuss that it was going to start that way, and she was going to be like, yeah, I can't be bothered with this anymore, and just cast it aside. But she maintained the whole Cindy Lou Who demeanour and cutesiness and rhyming couplets throughout, because the humour of it and the brilliance of it is that she is still Cindy Lou Who in a very modern and a very real world. The idea that Whoville is a place just like we know in real life, and where she's finding herself now is like Whoville's version of New Jersey, was hilarious to me. Who Jersey? Who Jersey? Ah. But that generally is the source of all the comedy, as well as just some genuinely very funny writing. It's the idea of Cindy Lou Who having to navigate these very adult problems that we don't see her encountering in The Grinch. So when the rhyming kept going, I stopped thinking, oh, this is going to end. I started to realize, oh gosh, we're going to rhyme for the entire time. And I was like, am I going to enjoy this? Is this going to get old? Are we really going to keep this up for the entire time? And it does give you those couple moments where she can just throw in an aside and say something in between lines, which is really funny because you're so used to the structure of what has been established that any variation on that really gets highlighted. And it's sort of this release of tension from like what you're expecting the next line to be. But at the same time, in any drag performance, there's such an interaction that you can have with the audience, and I think the rigidity of some of the rhyming structure of the script inhibited her from being able to really have a conversation with people in the space. I mean, especially not only because it's a drag performance, but also because it's a monologue and she's speaking to the audience as if they are a character. The audience really is the other character in this show. That's not to say there isn't audience interaction. I will tell you more about that later, because I had a very personal experience of what the audience interaction can be like in the show. Let me tell you, you're not even ready for this story. But like I said, this was a very sweet, very enjoyable show, and I had a gay old time. So Miz Cracker is fantastic in this show, and she's giving you exactly what you want from her. She's giving you a big blonde wig, she's giving you the personality that you've come to associate her with on RuPaul's Drag Race, while still feeling like Cindy Lou Who as a character. Like I said, she's just very compatible with this show. It's some very clever casting. She wears 2 outfits in the show, she has a very quick change off stage from one into the other, and she does just look like a human-sized Barbie doll living in this Barbie trailer type setup, which is a beautifully ironic concept. In the few moments where she does get to interact with the audience and maybe make some slightly judgmental asides, those are really lovely, and she really shines in those moments. And I cannot go any longer in this video without telling you what specifically happened at this performance. Because when I arrived at press night at Southwark Playhouse, I was not expecting to end up on stage, and yet I did. So evidently, I was sat in the wrong place, or perhaps exactly the right place, and someone thought that that would be hilarious. I had a great time. This made my evening, but there's a point in the show where Miz Cracker wants to share a drink with somebody on stage, Miz Cracker as Cindy Lou Who. So she then looks out to the audience and everyone gets this sense of anticipation of what's about to happen, and she was walking down the side, just slowly approaching me. And I was wearing this that I'm wearing now, and tartan trousers and boots, and I was dressed like Santa. And I don't think that helped me to not be inconspicuous in this moment, but I was invited up on stage to have a drink with Miz Cracker, which from what I could tell was 2 different kinds of water and like a seltzer, which I'll be honest, it was not great. but I was just happy to be offered a beverage. So that was very sweet. I was on stage for, I mean, probably 60 seconds, but it felt like hours, where I just tried to give funny answers, and also very short and monosyllabic answers, because even when she was talking to me, the whole thing was still rhyming and still in couplets, so I thought, if I go on too long, I'm just going to upset the flow of what you're trying to say, and you only have a set answer for what I'm going to feed back to you as well. Like, it was like, where are you from? And what's your job? And so I didn't want to be there and be like, actually, that's a really difficult question to answer right now, because I'm kind of in a transitional phase. So didn't say any of that. I just gave simple answers that were close enough to the truth, because I did not want to be the one critic who turned up and ruined the show. But that was fun. I got a drink, I got a lap dance. That was like my life flashing before my eyes in that moment. And then I got to go and sit down. But then there were little fun asides where she was poking fun at me for the rest of the show, which was nothing short of an honour, let me tell you. So obviously that was a very special moment of the show, but I do have one other highlight I would like to tell you about. So like I'd mentioned before, because the whole thing is in verse, there is this worry, and it's only a 60-minute runtime, but there is still this worry that I had that it was going to get a little bit monotonous and stale, and that the whole thing would get pretty old pretty quick. So smartly, there is a section in the middle where she does a little bit of rap. And if you're familiar at all with Miz Cracker, you will know that this is always going to be a comedy moment. This is not sincere rap. This is not like Hamilton levels of rap. This is white people rap, and like white people dressed as Dr. Seuss characters rap. So, you know, this is not sincere. It's the only way that I can tell you about this. But that was really fun. And I would probably call that a highlight moment in the show. She had a little microphone, she got to move around the audience. It felt suddenly a lot more engaging because she wasn't stuck on this trailer set, and it felt more like we were being brought into the show, and it just broke up the pace of the whole thing, and it made it a little more interesting. It kept it engaging, so that was clever to have that section in there, and I thought that was really fun. But then what happened after that was a little bit unexpected, and this was perhaps my one criticism that I did have of this show. So there is a section towards the end where, per the script, the whole thing takes a little bit of a turn, and it goes to a little bit of a dark place. Now, tonally, there's a lot of things that do this. There's a lot of one-person comedy theatre monologues that do this. Think Fleabag. That's a show that very carefully balances its comedy with its genuine emotional darkness. And there's a way of doing this, and there's an awful lot of very well-written monologues where we will use tension in order to amp up the comedy that you can achieve with it, or where we will use comedy as this sort of deceitful cloak behind which we hide a legitimate piece of hard-hitting theatre. The two seem like opposites, but they actually have a very constantly interconnected relationship. Because the anatomy of a joke is the creation of tension that, when it is released, prompts an audience to laugh. So there is always this darkness and this drama and this intensity to anything that's funny, even if it doesn't seem that way. And this narrative definitely goes to a darker place with some of the things that Cindy Lou recalls having happened to her and some of the realities of her current living situation and a little bit of emotional trauma. And all of that would be fine and fantastic if the payoff were bigger at the end. It feels as though it needs to build to a bigger laugh for all of the angst of it to be worth it. It just feels like a bit of an unexpected downer, especially at Christmas. And hey, Christmas can be that for a lot of people, but I don't know that we're going to the theatre in December for an honest account of what Christmas can be like. And I don't think that's what anyone is really expecting from this production, and it's not what the first half of this show leads you to believe is going to happen. The thing is ultimately uplifting, and what you retain afterwards is ultimately just nice vibes, but there is this fairly heavy section that never really has the big enough punchline that you can release the whole thing from your system. You end up with a little bit of it still with you. Now, whether or not that should be part of the show, perhaps that's a question of theatrical appetite. Perhaps more people would prefer that the whole thing is not completely fluffy and frothy, and would love that it had gone to some slightly harder hitting places. I just feel for the tone of this show and the marketing of it all and everything that this show is purporting to be, that it's a little bit of an odd twist. But like I said, it doesn't take away from you enjoying this show, and there are still plenty of people who I would recommend this show to. So obviously, any fans of Miz Cracker, it's a fantastic opportunity to see her perform. And this is a fantastic opportunity for a drag queen like her to really showcase her talents, because when you go and see drag queens perform in a bar, for some of them that's the perfect vehicle for their talents, for them to lip sync and for them to dance and for them to host. But someone like Miz Cracker, whose drag style has always been inherently theatrical, it's a great opportunity. Her doing a one-woman monologue of Dr. Seuss parody, it's so on brand for her, and it's such a perfect way to go and see Miz Cracker and feel like you've spent an hour chatting with her, and if you get to sit in my seat, then you actually will. But not only that, I feel like this is actually one of the most authentic, if not the most authentic, queer festive show I have been to see this winter season. I'm deliberately not saying Christmas because Miz Cracker is Jewish. She doesn't celebrate Christmas. The whole thing has a little bit of a Christmas aesthetic on it because of the Grinch connection, and obviously this is Christmas programming, but it's just a festive vibe. You don't have to be someone who celebrates Christmas to go and enjoy this show. And you don't have to be queer either. Like I said, this was not written with a drag performer in mind. A drag performer works very well in this role, and there are a couple of nods, because it's a drag performer, to a little bit of queer comedy, but for the most part, it's just funny because it's funny. It's irreverent, it's smart, and it's just so deeply ironic. It also offers a really interesting conversation because drag in the UK, I think, has really evolved, because for most people, their most common reference point for drag in the UK historically used to be the pantomime dame, because so many children in the UK go and see pantomime. Now, the idea of what a pantomime dame offers as a drag performer is so different from the mold of the new RuPaul's Drag Race output and what drag has become with this sophisticated and sleek art form that it now is. And so I think while you can see hundreds of very, very talented pantomime dames at Christmas, if you really want to go and see a drag performer, if you found yourself really enjoying RuPaul's Drag Race, you can go and see Miz Cracker in Whose Holiday at Southwark Playhouse, because that's going to be closer to your expectation of what a drag queen is in the modern world. Lastly, I want to talk about a couple of the creatives attached to this production. So the whole thing has been directed very carefully and very well by Kirk Jameson, and Justin Williams is credited in the programme as the designer. I don't know if this is both set and costume design, but the set design in particular I really do enjoy, and some of the little details and little props and how he's worked with the limitations of the Southwark Playhouse space to create something that has a sense of location and a sense of outdoors, and then a sense of breaking through that to connect with the audience, which again is in coordination with the direction from Kirk Jameson. Very, very clever, and you really get a sense of the world that is being created here. It's not an immense world, it's just within a trailer park adjacent to Whoville, but it's done very, very well. I love that set design, and I got to see a lot of details up close because I got to go on stage and sit in the trailer. So I can only say good things about that excellent set design. Because also, details that people may never even see, like there's a little mailbox out front with a litter bag next to it on a little pile of snow, and there's a little like trickle of pee coming down off of the side of something because it's meant to be like a bit of like a low rent area, like she's not living in Whoville luxury. So it's just those little details that suggest to you her current circumstances, I think are very funny and very clever. But those have been my thoughts about Whose Holiday at Southwark Playhouse. If you have been lucky enough to see this production already, let me know what you thought in the comments section down below and what you thought about Miz Cracker's performance as Cindy Lou Who. Thank you so much for watching today's video. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, make sure to subscribe to my Stagey YouTube channel for plenty more videos, including more reviews coming very soon. If you really enjoyed today's video, you can use the super thanks button down below to give me a tip. That very much helps me as a Stagey content creator to keep making as many regular videos as I am. I hope that everyone is staying safe and that you have a Stagey day.
For 10 more seconds, I'm Mickey Joe Theatre. Oh my god, hey. Thanks for watching, have a Stagey day. Subscribe!